and welcome to The Bond, the show about connecting with nature. So, people often consider welcoming a furry four-legged creature into their home, and they might be drawn to an idea of a smaller dog. And there are some shelters which specialize in smaller dogs, and the PACOC, or the Pet Adoption Center of Orange County, is exactly one of those centers. One of the ways that they do that is they take the problem dogs that were returned to shelters and they rehabilitate them in a very homey, cozy environment, give them some basic training that they may not have had before, and voila, here's a potential friend for life. So according to the ASPCA, there is a national rehoming survey that was issued. And they said that pet problems was the #1 reason why people returned their dogs. That accounted for 47% of rehomed dogs and 42% of rehomed cats. So the way they took this survey is they started off by collecting about 105,000 phone numbers, and they whittled it down bit by bit until they got to about 590 people who had rehomed a dog in the past 5 years and were eligible to comment on this survey. So what was the #1 reason for rehoming a pet? The first place, 41% said the reason why they rehomed a family pet was because someone else in the family just couldn't take it. They were either allergic or they're going through a divorce. Maybe they got a new person involved in their household that didn't like the pet, or a new baby arrived, a death in the family meant that that dog could not be cared for anymore, a number of reasons. But it was up to some human in that family that said, not here, not now. The second reason, 25% rehomed a pet because they could not afford the cost of the pet. They didn't realize what it took. Third, at 18%, rehomed because as a renter, their landlord was very specific about not allowing that particular animal in their household. And fourth, at 12%, they rehomed because of a pet's problematic behavior. Only 12%. And those were also considered not only aggressive type behaviors, but maybe that pet just grew larger than they thought or developed a health problem that the owner was not prepared to take care of. And finally, at 3%, people had rehomed for a variety of other reasons. And that includes things like they suddenly got deployed, or they had a change in their job schedule and could no longer maintain that consistency. But 6.3 million animals enter shelters every year. And that sounds like a lot, but back in 2011, the number was 7.2 million. So we have improved some. However, even today, there is a huge amount of animals that cannot be physically contained in these shelters, and so they get euthanized. About 900,000 a year. So we want to avoid that. We want to decrease that rate. And the best way to do that is to invite you to adopt a dog from a shelter. And there are actually some organizations which take unwanted animals. These are animals that have been returned to the shelter because of one of those other situations. This shelter is called the Adoption Center of Orange County, California, and their slogan is Pets, Family for Life. Over 4 million dogs and cats are adopted each year, and also 810,000 strays are picked up and returned to their rightful owners. And that is because of microchipping. And there's a variety of different technologies that will keep that pet safe and prevent them from getting lost. So I urge you to make sure that you have a good collar or some sort of a pet wearable. There are a couple of companies that offer pet wearables like FitBark, Whistle, and Tractive. And Tractive, I believe, works with the Humane Society to help you find your pet. But let's say you're a first timer and you want to get that pet, that new dog. Well, 65 million households actually own dogs and 46 million own a cat and 11 million own a fish. So if you want to be popular like 65 million of your friends, then you might want to go shopping for a dog. There was a survey done that wondered what was the cheapest place to own a dog, and that answer is Delaware. Their annual cost is about $2,800 to take care of a dog, while the least expensive place to own a dog would be Idaho at about $1,232. So we want to make sure that you have a wonderful experience with a dog and matchmake with the Pet Adoption Center at Orange County. So let's have a conversation with April and see what it is, what their secret formula is for matchmaking with a dog for their forever family. Let's have a chat with April from the Pet Adoption Center of Orange County. And welcome back. We are privileged enough to have an expert from the Pet Adoption Center of Orange County, April, who has come with us today with Benji. And I am so thankful that you are here. We really appreciate the fact that you came all this way, and we would love to learn a little bit more about your center and its unique screening model with matchmaking. Could you tell us a little bit about how you're different from a regular city shelter?
So we're an animal rescue group. We actually take animals from shelters sometimes, and also from owners who need help rehoming them. We have set ourselves up in a retail center in a space that is very home-like, where we've made bedrooms for the dogs. We have a little conversation pit with a sofa and a love seat. We have a playroom, and then we have volunteers who come throughout the day and care for them just like they'd be in a home. They give them 5 walks a day.
5 walks a day?
5 walks a day.
Wow.
They get playtime in the playroom. They have all kinds of socialization with other dogs, and we're able to care for them individually for any medical needs they might have or any behavior needs.
So let me ask you about that. A lot of times when people are looking for a dog, they kind of don't know what they're looking for. They just want that dog. They want that bond. But in your situation, you have a more formal matchmaking process. So I couldn't just go in, look at a bunch of kennel cages and say, I'll take that one and walk away.
Right.
So could you tell me a little bit about what it is that you're looking for? Are you looking at the dog's personality, or are you looking at the person's personality?
We do both, because we know our dogs very well after we bring them in and we assess them, and we decide based on their behavior. They tell us whether they want to be with other dogs or be an only dog. They tell us a lot about themselves. So we have an application that's online. We have pictures and profiles that are very detailed, and we ask people to review them and see if it sounds like a good match for them first, and then fill out an application. And even if they're coming in for one dog and it somehow doesn't seem like it's a good fit, based on their application and their home life, like whether they have kids or not, whether they're in an apartment or a house with a yard, we will make suggestions to them to match them to a dog that would be appropriate for their circumstances.
So do you have any examples of somebody that says, I'm interested in a dog, but I want this dog to maybe be a companion friend to my I have a dog?
Yes.
So tell me a story about that.
So we had one last month. The dog was named Taylor. She was a little Papillon mix, and we received an application from a couple who had 2 German Shepherds and wanted a small dog that would match up. Right, because she'd always wanted a small dog.
Wow, okay.
So we found out from the owner who surrendered the dog to us, there was a video of little Taylor, who was 8 pounds, playing with a husky in the former home.
Oh, wow.
So having seen that,
so
when the family submitted the application and they listed 3 different dogs, I discussed with them the behaviors of all of the dogs, and I said, the only one that I think might work is Taylor, because we saw her play in the home comfortably with a big dog.
No, but why is it that you do this extra step of trying to match make? Like, what's the reason behind it?
Well, shelters are all about numbers.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
How many dogs can they get out of the facility each month so they can make room for the next ones?
So they pick up abandoned stray dogs,
right?
And then they have to just get them in, get them out, get them in,
yes.
get them out. Okay.
And after 30 days, they don't even take returns, and some shelters don't take any returns.
Okay.
Benji was adopted as a puppy from a shelter, and when the owner moved out of the country, they couldn't return him to the shelter. We have an agreement that says we have a lifetime return policy because we don't want anything to happen where the dog will end up in a shelter.
Right. Okay.
At risk.
So they've already gone through that negative experience of being in a shelter, and so this is a sort of a second chance.
Right. So
them.
even though he came from a home, he had been through a shelter experience already, then a home experience. So by the time he came to us, I was given a long list of, be careful with this. His sensitivity is that. He doesn't do this, that, and the other thing. And yet, as soon as we brought him in and spent some time with him, and he had been an only dog in that home, he now has 2 roommates. He loves other dogs, and he feels more comfortable with other dogs.
So he got over his fear, his initial fear. So you're dealing with not just a dog that's been returned, but you're dealing with a dog who's maybe experienced some rejection and some trauma that you have to unwind. You have to be a little bit of a therapist as well, right?
Right. So we kind of call our facility sometimes like a halfway house, like a rehab center.
Okay.
And when we get dogs from the shelter, a lot of the dogs we take are the ones that have already been adopted and returned because they were so fearful, or they're labeled fearful in the shelter, and the shelter doesn't want them to just go to anybody.
But sometimes being fearful is a sign of stress.
Correct.
In a dog, isn't it? So what tips could you give a typical viewer who may not understand what is a sign of stress? Could you list a couple of signs?
Sure. One of the first things is the dog will have their tail between their legs.
Okay. All right.
Another one you'll see them doing is, I call it nervous licking. They'll just be sitting there, and then all of a sudden, for no reason, they just start licking.
I mean, just licking their own
licking
face?
Their own, just like,
okay,
just,
okay.
I don't know how to describe it, right?
No, you don't have to do that. So
yes.
So because one of the things that I've seen is that when you get a dog, they go, here's what you need to prepare. But the list that they give is it's material. It's like, you need a leash, you need a collar, you need a water bottle, you need a bed, you need all of these different things. But it sounds like you're saying, yes, but you need that whole list, but you also need vaccinations, you need, tell us what you prepare a prospective owner with.
So what we do is we treat the dogs as though they're our own. So before we will adopt them out, they are fully vaccinated.
And that's expensive.
Vaccinated.
That's expensive.
Correct. So we do all of their vaccinations. We flea treat them.
Okay.
We deworm them. We microchip them for identification for the future, and we spay or neuter. So that's very expensive these days.
Yes, and that all comes with a dog before they walk out the door.
Absolutely. They're ready to go to a home. We've socialized them. We've decided what kind of home they tell us they want.
Now, your facility is a little bit different because most have cages, and sometimes you could tell that the cage was made for one dog and they have 5 dogs in there.
Correct.
Because of the overcrowding. You limit the number of dogs that you actually take, and you don't have any cages. So, I mean, tell me why you decided on a home environment to be that halfway house.
Well, I had been in foster-based rescue for many, many years, and that's really what most rescue is about. And if foster-based rescues can't find a foster home, they will put the dogs in boarding at a vet hospital or a boarding facility, which is, again, kind of like being in a shelter, in cages. So what we were trying to do, we were trying to set up a new modern business model that relates more to the human-animal bond.
So it's more of a transition into someone else's home. They've been
Yes.
with that couch. They know what a coffee table is.
Yes.
And all that. Would he feel comfortable going on the coffee table?
Let's see.
And while you're doing that, can I ask you, do you ever advise a prospective owner about what sorts of tabletop foods that they're allowed to have? So as
Yes.
far as snacks and all that. Oh, look at how cute he is. I don't know if he's giving us his best angle.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying, but he's going to want to face me as the.
Well, tell me how.
How's that? Can you look that way? You want to look at me.
Oh, that's okay. But I can see that he really adores being with you. You can
Yes.
take him off the table. But so can I give a dog a grape if I'm healthy and eating fruit? Can I give him a strawberry?
Well, grapes are a big no-no.
No. Okay.
And raisins as well.
Raisins are no also.
Yes.
And chocolate?
And chocolate is not good. And onions and garlic, they say, are not good.
Okay.
One of the things that the experts recommend are green beans.
Green beans, really? So like
Because
I
they
could get a
will-
bag of frozen green beans if I want, and I can just
Yes.
toss them as a treat. Oh, that's a great tip.
Yes, they're not just healthy for them, but they won't gain too much weight.
And speaking of weight, I wanted to ask you about diet. So have you ever had an overweight dog come to you?
We've had a lot of them. One of the things that almost shows a sign of neglect is when they just feed them and don't walk them. Or they just free feed and just leave food out and they don't have time for them.
So a dog eats even
So
when they're bored or
Right. They will
Okay.
just overeat. And we recently took in a French bulldog that is, today he's 33 pounds. When we got him, he was 46 pounds.
Wow.
Yes. And you would never imagine that a French bulldog would be that large, but he was severely overweight.
Pretty plump. So what did you do? Did you just take him on more walks? I mean, it sounds like you already go on 5 walks a day.
Yes.
So being on that rigorous schedule really helped to build up the muscle mass and reduce the fat?
That's part of it, and then we just manage his diet. What we recommend is not doing free feeding at home,
Okay.
to do a breakfast and dinner meal and measured proportions, of food. If you have a portion that is appropriate for them and you do the food twice a day and they eat it, then you can manage it. And if it seems like they're underweight, then you can up it a little bit. If it seems like they're overweight, you can reduce it. And then you can give treats like green beans and other healthy
Foods, right?
Healthy foods,
Has
yeah.
anyone ever, when you're interviewing a family for matching, are you just interviewing the owner, or are you interviewing the owner and their kids, or the owner and their house pets, or
Yes.
how extensive is your matching?
So our application asks all of those questions, and in comparison to the shelter, what we do is pretty much the opposite, because we require, if they have another dog, to bring the dog to the meeting.
You require it.
We require it. We require, if they have children, that all the children meet. We also require that if there are 2 or more adults that have to make the decision, that they all
Come and meet the dog.
And everybody is on board. Because
I see.
what will happen with shelters is one person will go get a dog, bring it home, and the rest of the family, human and otherwise, may not be a match or may not be on board with it. And then they return it.
Well, it sounds like quite an organization that you've built, because it really is delving into making sure that this is a permanent, forever home.
Yes.
Not somebody who says, I saw an ad, doggy is cute, so I'm going to bring him home, and about a month later I realize I can't have him, and then I have to drop him back off at the shelter.
Right.
So so can you tell me, do you ever use volunteers at your shelter, and how
Yes.
young can they be, and what types of volunteers do you use? Are they just dog walkers, or?
We're actually all volunteer run.
You're 100% volunteer run.
With the
Okay.
exception of me,
Right, okay.
running the organization, every person who actually runs the facility and cares for the dogs is a volunteer.
Okay, so
So we have over 80 volunteers.
you have
right now.
80 volunteers. Great. And how old is your youngest volunteer?
So our standard is normally 18 because of
Okay.
insurance purposes
Sure, I can
for
understand
animal
that.
care. But we do have a policy, and it has worked with some of our long-term volunteers when their children are in high school, say 16 and 17. If they want to come volunteer to care for the dogs with a parent, then they can get their high school community service hours through us.
Oh, that is a great tip. So anybody who lives in the Orange County area who wants to volunteer at the shelter or at Pet Adoption Center of Orange County, the website is adoptocpets.org, and you can go onto their website, and I'm assuming you have all of the lists of volunteer needs that you have on there? Or?
Yes. On our volunteer page, we have a volunteer application and a liability waiver, and you would download those and complete them, and then we have a checklist of a bunch of different options for how you would like to volunteer. It includes not just pet care, but events, social media, photography, administration. Since we do everything with volunteers, we ask for, we ask the volunteers what would they like to do.
But you mentioned events.
Yes.
And I would love to hear, what event do you host?
So we host the South County Pet Expo with the City of Lake Forest and the Orange County supervisor for our district.
And if somebody wanted to look that up and when the next one is there a dedicated website for that?
We don't have a website. We have the event listed on our website, and we also have an Instagram account. That's South County Pet Expo.
South County Pet Expo, and then that's your Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram,
and then,
yes.
And then adoptocpets.org.
And yeah, look up on our events page and you'll see information about the South County Pet Expo.
That is fantastic. Now, do you have a message for any of our viewers about any advice that you'd like to give or what you'd like to see in the future?
Well, a couple of things. If you decide you're looking for a dog, don't think you're looking for a dog because you want a
tell our audience
don't look for a dog based on looks. You want to look for a companion that would be someone to fit into your lifestyle and that they would be happy in that lifestyle.
So a good personality and a lifestyle fit.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent advice. Well, thank you so much, April, for stopping by and sharing this information with us. We have really enjoyed this little chit chat with April. So thanks so much, and we will be right back after this short break. Well, one thing that I learned from our chat with April was considering a pet from the POCC means giving that pet a second chance. And don't we all need a second chance? It's also a more sustainable pet ownership model. It's sort of when you have a bad day at work and you come home to a dog that just adores you, everything seems better. They have a tailored selection and a personalized matchmaking process. They want to unite compatible personalities with the dog temperaments. They want to be transparent in their communication. They offer a dog's clean, homey atmosphere so that the transition to your wonderful, clean home is easy. And they want to transition the dog from being an adoptable dog to being your dog in the easiest way to make a forever match. Plus, they organize a fabulous event. The Pet Adoption Center of Orange County, or the PACOC, or adoptocpets.org is their website, just might be exactly where you find that right canine match. I mean, you could go to other options, but this might be the best option for you. It's unlike a typical city shelter. They take the time to get to know you as well as to get to know the dog's temperament to make sure that it's a win-win situation for you both. They conduct those in-depth conversations and they understand your home environment and your entire family before you find that right dog to be the perfect match with all of the personalities in that dynamic. They want to make sure it complements your lifestyle. So it's all about creating a lasting, happy bond between you and your new pet. They want to make sure that they prioritize responsible pet ownership and will educate you on what you need to be successful in your new role as a pet owner. And if you're already a pet owner and you're introducing a new animal to help keep maybe another animal company, then they want to make sure that it's a good fit all around. These dogs, they get playtime, they get walks, they get the socialization that they need to ease that transition, and they also get a newly educated pet owner. But maybe you feel inspired as well to do some volunteering. Well, they are welcoming volunteers in all capacities. There's administrative options to help keep the place clean. You can also support with taking a pet to vet visits. You can help with events like the South County Pet Expo and all sorts of other fun-filled community types of activities. So you can help plan and execute fundraising or even social media content. They welcome all skill sets. So if you feel so inclined as to volunteer, you might want to check out their volunteer page at adoptocpets.org/volunteer. You can even take great photos of their pets that are up for adoption. And if you're considering welcoming a dog into your life, or you just want to get involved in some way, then talk to the OC pet adoption people. Adoption is not just about getting a pet. It's about welcoming a new friend and companion into your life. So I want to say thank you for joining me and learning about the work of the Pet Adoption Center of Orange County and what they do for giving second chances to smaller dogs. You want to ditch the stale office air and adopt a pet with flair. And thank you for taking the time to spend it with me on this journey. And until we bond again,